Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
You know what they say, man plans and God laughs. We wanted to be outside, but we can bring the outside inside. Or we wanted to be outside, but we're inside. Luckily for us, we have the beautiful sun shining down through these beautiful windows above us. And when we sing together and we join together in prayer, then we can feel that loveliness all around us. So let's begin our service. Let's begin our service with the singing of Hava Nashira, Shir Hallelujah, which can be found in your Siddur on page 2. We join together now in the singing of Hava Nashira.
Hava, Hava Nashira, Shir Hallelujah, Shir Hallelujah. 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 Hava, Hava Nashira, Shir Hallelujah, Shir Hallelujah.
On page 2, we join together, reading responsively. Many are the generations of Israel, and in every age we have sought the living God through Sabbath rest and worship. This time and place hold the power to increase our joy in the eternal. O God, even as we seek you in the sanctuary, help us to know that your glory fills all space. Make us understand that you are with us at all times, if we but open our minds to you. We read together, we feel the presence of your Spirit in our homes and on our ways. We see the beauty of your creation in garden, lake, and sky, and in the human form. We hear you in the silence of our own hearts, speaking the truths the heart knows. May we be your witnesses to the world, your messengers to all the earth. We show forth your image within us, the divine spark that makes us human. We continue now with Lecha Dodi on page 3.
Lecha, lecha dodi, likrat, likrat kala, pene, pene, Shabbat nekabela. Lecha, lecha dodi, likrat, likrat kala, pene, pene, Shabbat nekabela, la, la. Lecha, lecha dodi, likrat, likrat kala, pene, pene, Shabbat nekabela. Lecha, lecha dodi, likrat, likrat kala, pene, pene, Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, hishmi'anu el hameyuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, l'shem u'tiferet v'litila la 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 la. Lecha dodi, likrat, likrat kala, pene, pene, Shabbat nekabela. Lecha, lecha dodi, likrat, likrat kala, pene, pene, Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki mekor haberacha, merosh mikedem nesucha, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה, לה 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 לה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, אורי שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה, לה לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
We continue reading responsively on page 5. For the good in us which calls us to a better life, we give thanks. For the strength to improve the world with our hearts and hands, we give praise. For the peace in us which leads us to work for peace, we are grateful. For all these we give thanks to the Creator of life and nature.
We continue now with Chatzi Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon, uv'chayedecho beit Yisrael. Ba'agala, uv'izman kari, ve'yimeru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach, le'alam le'olmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnasei, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yithalal, shemei dekudesha, brichu. Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma, v'yimeru.
Amen. We now rise as we turn to the call to worship, which can be found at the top of page 6.
Adonai HaMevorach, Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed, Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam
continue in the Hebrew. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma poteach sharim, uvitvuna meshane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, sader et hakochavim b'mishmerotehem berakia kirtzono. Bore yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or. Uma'avir yom umevi layla, umavdil ben yom uvein layla. Adonai tzavaot shemo. El chai v'kayam tamid imlo chalenu leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim. We continue now at the top of page 8. One and only God, you have made each of us unique and formed us to be united in one family of life. Be with us, Eternal One, as we seek to unite our lives with your power and your love. We proclaim now your oneness and our own hope for unity. We acclaim your creative power in the universe and in ourselves, the law that binds world to world and heart to heart. We join together now in the watchword of our faith, the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Vaed.
You may be seated. We continue with Ve'ahavta on page 9.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
On page 10, high and exalted, great and awesome, God ever humbles the proud, raises the lowly, frees the imprisoned, redeems the afflicted, helps the oppressed in answering our people when we cry out. Praise to God Most High. Blessed is God and deserving of blessing. In great joy, Moses, Miriam, and Israel responded with song to you, all of them proclaiming,
Mi chamocha bailim Adonai, Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, Nora tehilot osei pele, Nora tehilot osei pele. Malechutecha ra'u vanecha, Bokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, Ze Eli, anu ve'ameru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, le'olam, le'olam, le'olam va'ed. V'nei Adonai et Yaakov, ug'alo miyad chazak mimenu, Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael.
We continue now reading responsibly at the bottom of page 11. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment this day. And may this day fulfill its promise.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
We're about to turn to the Amidah, and Cantor, you're going to be using different nusach, different music for the Shabbat. Can you explain what music you're going to be using and why?
This nusach is what we'll be chanting on the high holy days. And even just the saying of that phrase makes me schwitz just a little bit more. Many people say, Cantor, will you all be ready? And I say, when the time comes, we'll be ready. So, in order to get ready, on Friday nights, we've been chanting the high holiday melody for Avot V'Imahot and Givurot. So we can all get familiar to it once Rosh Hashanah arrives. So please rise as we begin. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imoteinu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, ve'Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah,
הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. זוכרנו לחיים, מלך חפץ בחיים, וכותבנו בספר החיים, וכותבנו בספר החיים, למענך אלוהים חיים, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה. מי כמוך אל הרחמים, זוכה יצוריו לחיים ברחמים, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל.
Amen. You may be seated. We continue reading responsively on page 14. There is holiness when we strive to be true to the best we know. There is holiness when we are kind to someone who cannot possibly be of service to us. There is holiness when we forget what divides us and remember what unites us. There is holiness when we are willing to be laughed at for what we believe in. There is holiness when we love truly, honestly, and unselfishly. There is holiness when we remember the lonely and bring cheer into dark corners. There is holiness when we share our bread, ideas, and our enthusiasm. There is holiness when we gather to pray to God who gave us the power to pray. Modim anachnu lach, she'ata hu Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, le'olam va'ed. Tzur chayenu, magen yishenu, ata hu ledor v'ador. We read together, O God of Israel's past, O God of this day, God of all flesh, Creator of all life, we praise you, the Most High, for the gift of life. We give thanks, O source of good, that life endures. Eternal and infinite one, help us to use our life for blessing, to live by your law, to do your will, to walk in your way with a whole heart. We thank you, eternal God, for the blessing of life. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Le'olam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. We think of the prayer for peace, and we think of the peace that is so necessary in all the world. O sovereign source of peace, let Israel, your people, know enduring peace. For it is good in your sight to bless Israel and all peoples with your peace. We praise you, O God, for you bless Israel with peace.
Amen.
We now turn to the words of our Avodah prayer as we join together in the singing of Ritzeh.
Ritzeh Adonai Eloheinu be'amecha Yisrael u'tefilatam be'ahava tekabel. Humbled in prayer, we seek to reach you. Hoping to be heard. Hearts open wide, longing to be true. Oh, let us know that you are near. Open our hearts that we may hear your still clear voice within us all. May we be worthy in our prayer and feel your presence everywhere. And may we answer when you call. Ritzeh Adonai Eloheinu be'amecha Yisrael u'tefilatam be'ahava tekabel. Oh, let us know that you are near. Open our hearts that we may hear your still clear voice within us all. May we be worthy in our prayer and feel your presence everywhere. And may we answer when you call. And may you answer when we call. Ritzeh Adonai Eloheinu. Ritzeh Adonai Eloheinu.
Those beautiful words of the Avodah still echoing in our hearts and minds, we take this time for silent reflection.
Ratzon imre fi Yul ratzon imre fi Vehegion libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri vegoali. and the meditation of my heart be acceptable before you. O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Ose shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael.
Good to hear those words. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, O God, my rock and my redeemer. Because when we think of the words of our heart and the prayers that we send up to the lofty heights, often we are thinking of our loved ones, those who may be in need of a refuat nefesh or a refuat guf, a healing of spirit or a healing of body. Particularly in our hearts and minds, we are thinking of Shendel Bat Frida Malka, Shirley Graham, Laura Bublitz, Keturah Bublitz, Ari Bublitz, Julie Borikoff, Margot Roz, Carol Dubin, Kira Yudkevich, Otto Feller, Samsara Vizcaya, Sharon Rotman, Eliyahu Ben Max and Emila, Bob Ratke, Lyle Rubel, Mark Cook, Moshe Ben Nechama, Karen Pearson, Jean Boss, Alan Turner, Judy Weingarten, Myron Dvorkin, Sybil Savalsky, Esther Cohen, Lauren Cheris, Matt Cheris, Lisa Firstad, Terry Finch, Vince Tomkowitz, Harav Ilana Miriam Batchava, Faye Levin, Sarah Rachel Bet Yocheved Alexander, David Feldner, Gili Gollopel, Prue Precourt, Linda Berlin, Alan Elias, Tia Barrett, Wendy Salzberg, Kim Toplinsky, Steve Plotkin, Kathy Peltz, Avram Ben Naftali, Neville Sender, Emma and Max, Harper Pozlowski, Doug Cruz, Nadiva Sarah Batliba, Sharon Rothstein, Devorah Bat Yehuda Malkus, Judith Naiman, Carol Rovner, David Goldstein, Stella Burton, and Mark Berlin. If there are names that should be added to this list, I invite you to hold those names in your heart as we turn to the words of the Mishaberach.
Mishaberach avoteinu mekor habracha leimoteinu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach imoteinu mikor habracha la'avoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Elul is overwhelming. Ask any Jewish professional working at a synagogue and they will tell you. Elul, this time of year, is overwhelming for all of us. Parents are worried about sending their children back to school. Doctors are worried about hospitals filling up. And we're all worried about the change of season. The summer days are slipping away, bringing on the anxieties about school and work and shorter daylight hours. What do we do when everything is piled up and we see no way around it? Our Jewish tradition offers wisdom that speaks to this concern, and I'd like to share two pieces in particular. We've heard the story of Nachshon probably more than once, and it bears repeating. On the way out of Egypt, the Israelites, fleeing from Pharaoh and his army, made it to the Sea of Reeds. Across the water was safety, land away from Egypt and its oppressive ways. But in front of the Israelites, standing between the swiftly approaching Egyptian army and freedom, were the vast waves of the sea. So all 600,000 of them stood frozen. Moses, our great leader and teacher, lifted his hands as God commanded, and nothing happened. The sea stayed put. Can you imagine how panicked the Israelites must have been right then? Moses, who'd never failed to make miracles happen, seemed to be doing just that. The Israelites began to whisper among themselves, "What should we do? Maybe we can turn back and apologize and go back to slavery in Egypt." Then a lone person broke from the crowd. Nachshon, son of Aminadav, stepped into the water. His family and friends looked on with horror and amazement. They cried, "What are you doing? Come back!" Nachshon walked forward, driven by an invisible force, a fire within. The water lapped his toes, then rose to cover his legs, his shoulders, his neck. As soon as the water came up over his nostrils, at the second he was fully submerged and not a second before, the sea split. And the people were able to walk behind Nachshon to liberation, to great joy and relief. Nachshon saw no way out. He stood with his people and saw the sea in front of him, turned back to watch the soldiers, their horses and chariots charging. So he moved, putting one foot in front of the other. He had no way of knowing if the water would part. We have many concerns right now, and they're all valid. We can sit with them and acknowledge the space they take up. Then we can straighten our shoulders and take a step forward. Then another and another until we've let them go. The second piece of wisdom I want to share with you comes from our Torah portion, Ki Teitzeh, which contains 72 of the 613 commandments, the most of any single Torah portion. Among those laws are those that safeguard the vulnerable in our communities. We read that if one reaps the harvest of their field and misses some of it, they should not go over it a second pass. That part of the harvest is for those in need, the stranger, the orphan, the widow, who have no one to provide for them. Even at this time, perhaps especially at this time, when they collect the bounty of their labor, they are not to take it exclusively for their benefit. Nechama Leibowitz, a renowned Torah scholar, described Sefer HaChinuch's approach to the text that the mitzvah is designed to promote a generous nature of the owner of the field. So, even when someone is practicing their livelihood to meet their needs, they must consider the needs of others. When life starts to get overwhelming, we tend to draw into ourselves, insisting that we can take care of everything on our own. Sure, the problems we face are ours alone, that no one else could possibly understand. While that feels real to us in the moment, we do better when we reach out. Connection fuels inspiration, hope, and joy. The other night, I FaceTimed with my brother and his kids. Seeing my niece's face, watching her smile, lit me up inside. My nephew Wyatt showed me the book I got him, Goodnight Dump Truck, and laughed and told me each one of the dump truck's names. Though they're in Kansas City, they felt very close that night. Talking with a friend can give us a different perspective to explore. And when we talk with other people, often we find that our problems are shared. There are support groups for many concerns: Alcoholics Anonymous, AA, or Al-Anon for family members of alcoholics, new parents circles, groups for parents with kids in the same school district, and professional groups. There's even a professional group on Facebook for clergy. Everyone is working through something. So in this month of Elul, as we wind down our summer and prepare ourselves for the holy work of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, let us be like Nachshon. Even when the water seems to stretch on endlessly in front of us, may we find the fortitude to take one step forward and continue stepping until we can walk forward confidently into our future. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Let's look at the bottom of page 16 in your prayer book, if we could. And we can all sing together this beautiful text by Hannah Senish and a wonderful melody by David Zahavi. This song is very much related to the struggles we're having in our physical world these days. Written decades ago, still so relevant. Eli, Eli, shelo yigamer leolam, hachol v'hayam, risru shel hamayim, berak hashamayim, tfilat ha'adam, hachol v'hayam, risru shel hamayim, berak hashamayim, tfilat ha'adam. O God, my God, I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart, the sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the
Thank you, Rabbi Kozlowski, for those inspiring words, and thank you, Cantor, for beautiful music. Eli, Eli. We certainly pray that all that is good is sustaining in our world. And we know that it is because we can look at the next generation like Harmony, who we are so excited to see you, Harmony. It feels like forever, and it's so nice to have you back among us. And for those of you who might not know, Harmony just finished competing in the Junior Olympics, where she beat her personal best time. So I'm going to ask you, Harmony, to sprint up here. And Linda and Jeff, if you can keep up, you can come up too as we open up our ark doors. Harmony, it's so nice to see you. As we turn to the sacred words of Aleinu, which can be found in your Siddur on page 18. And it's a good number. It's a number that's symbolic of life and living. And it is good to always be together and enjoy these moments of unity. As we turn to the words of Aleinu on page 18.
והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד
You may be seated. We turn now to memory. We turn now to, as we think of those whom we have loved and who we have lost. We think of members of our community who have passed during this period of Shiva. We think of Bertrand Lubell Sulzer, Mark Ackerman, Adrian Katradimos, Gerald Zutnik, and Stella Burton. We also think of those who have passed during the 30-day mourning period. We think of Faye Kohlberg, Jordan Ray Peterson Hare, Dr. Leslie Sandlow, and Norman Sheminsky. We also think of those who have walked this earth before us and who walk the earth now beside us as we keep them in our hearts as we walk in our ways. We think of Jean Adler, Marilyn Avni, Mitzi Bootson, Bertie Borns, Evelyn Brightman, Howard Bressler, Sylvia Buckman, Harold Burston, Rebecca Cohen, Sam Cohn, Brenda Delane, Max Dubman, Samuel Edelman, Mark Elbaum, Robert Federley, Bernard Frackman, Mildred Friedman, Brittany Giggle, Freddie Glazer, Clarence Goldberg, Robert Goldberg, Molly Gulper, Rosalind Gulper, Corrine K. Hall, Jeanette Johnson, June Kaplan, Sidney Kohler, Theodore Kolodenko, Harry Connick, Ruth Blink-Lave, Belle Levine, Ethel Coffer-Levy, David Love, Sylvia Libermitz, Ida Lipton, Joseph Lubar, Myra Mannheimer, Louis McGlosky, Julian Matzoff, Edith Meister, Lillian Meldman, Michael Meldman, Erwin Jerome Morar, Lena Meckler, Paula Nelson, Norman Narad, Eugene Perchonik, S. Mickey Pivar, Surmeta Pollack, Harry Raffel, Arthur Rand, Sandra Renko, Alan Richman, Rabbi Frank Rosenthal, Sophie Rudick, Emal Schoenfeld, Byron Shapiro, Saul Singer, Bertha Slotnick, Elaine Strauss, Jack Walchuk, Filbert Wallerstein, Jan Willens. If there are names that should be added to this list or any names that should be pronounced differently than I did, please do say those names as I look in your direction. In addition to the names of our loved ones, so too do we think of all those who died due to war and or terrorism. We think of all those who have died through this terrible virus that has stricken our nation and our world. We also think of all those who perished due to the virus of racism. We think of all those who have died in defense of this nation and allied nations' ideals, as well as all those who perished during the Holocaust. Our griefs and sympathies are mingled as we turn to words sanctified by memory, words glorified and by prayer and by unity, as we turn to page 20 and rise together for Kaddish Yatom. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shmei Rabbah, B'alma divrach chute v'amlich malchute, B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam ulamei almaya. Yit barach v'ishtabach v'itpa'ar v'itramam v'itnaseh. V'itadar v'italev v'italal Shmei Kudusha brichu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Damiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabbah min Shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav. Hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say Amen. Please be seated. During the summer months, one of my most favorite things that we do, Brent, you can come on up if you want. One of my favorite things that we get to do is to share good news. Not only do we join together in moments of tragedy and sadness, but we join together in celebration of the simchas that exist in our lives. And just as our teachings teach us, those who sow in tears shall reap in joy. So, is there any good news from the past week or good news from the week to come? Harmony, your good news is wonderful. We're so excited for you that you beat your personal best time in competition, and we're happy to have you here. And any other good news? Yes. That is wonderful news, Jerry. Wonderful news. You should only know health, gesund, right? Sei gesund. You should only go in health. Kids are coming home from camp. That is wonderful news. It's always nice for those moments as well. I celebrated a birthday. I'm excited about that. I won't blow out the candles on the bima, but yes. Mazel tov. That's wonderful. Do you know which college?
University of Colorado in Boulder.
Wow, wonderful. Does he have to declare a major yet?
It'll be computer sciences. He's within the engineering program.
Wow, very cool. Computer sciences and engineering. That is amazing. It's they tried. When I took the GREs, it was the first standardized test I'd ever taken in order to get into rabbinical school. And, the arts and the English part was fine, but when we got to the math problems, it was a little more challenging for me. I expected there to say, what is 10 commandments minus the Noahide laws, but it didn't have that on the test, so, thankfully I ended up in the rabbit and not as an engineer. Yeah. 61st wedding anniversary. That is wonderful. May you know many, many more years of happiness and joy together. Harmony, you had your hand up for a second? Oh. You're starting school soon. Wonderful. That is great news. That is wonderful news. And Linda, I thought I saw your hand up for a second as well, too.
We sent out the materials and people are registering for the high holiday services and for school as well.
Wonderful. It is nice to see that renewal of people coming to be together, whether they're together physically in our buildings or spiritually over the internet as well. It is wonderful for us to join together, and particularly for our young people to fill our schools and create the next generation of our Jewish world. It's good to celebrate these good moments together, to celebrate the joy that can come into our lives as well. And I'm overjoyed to introduce our congregational president, Brent Arnold, who's going to make some announcements on behalf of the congregation. Shabbat Shalom, Brent.
Thank you, Rabbi, and Mazel Tov to everybody. It's exciting to see some mitzvahs out there, so that is fantastic news. I am very excited, as Linda had mentioned a little bit earlier, I'm excited to announce that the registration is now open for our High Holy Day services. Yay! You all should have received an email on Wednesday with the links for all the details of this year's services. The information is also being sent out directly to your homes. We are asking that you be vaccinated to attend the High Holiday services located here in the Samson Sanctuary. The family services will take place outside at Doctors Park. It all begins with Slichot on Saturday, August 28th. Then Erev Rosh Hashanah begins on Labor Day, Monday, September 6th. It's all right around the corner. And then Erev Yom Kippur follows on Wednesday, September 15th. I look forward to seeing you all and welcoming the rest of our congregation back together here again. I'm also very excited to hear the melodies of our wonderful cantor Perper, and the wonderful Shalom Choir will be back. So I hear they are practicing very, very hard, and that they sound pretty magnificent. So I'm excited to hear them. So please don't forget that you need to register online or call the office to help you get registered for these High Holy Day services. It should be really wonderful this year. Registration is also open for our youth religious school and Hebrew school, so please make sure to get your children or your grandchildren registered. We still plan to reduce the class sizes by having 2 separate school sessions in order to remain here in person. So reach out to our education director, Brian Avner, with any questions. We appreciate your patience and flexibility to allow us to remain successful with this plan. Last night, the Shalom Dayenu Circle hosted a Jewish call to climate action. They participated in great speeches and a shofar blowing outside of the office of Senator Tammy Baldwin as they showed support for her environmental leadership. Thanks to Elise Moulton and David Wolson for leading this important effort last night. I want to send a mazel tov to the Congregation Shalom softball team for making it to the championship game. Yeah, feel free to show your support this Tuesday night as they compete for the league championship. Pretty exciting. Who knew we had such great softball players? I don't know. I thought Ben might be here to let me know, but I'm not exactly sure. Oh, Fox Point Lutheran? All right, just kidding. Our next Voices for Justice meeting is scheduled for Thursday, September 30th at 6 o'clock p.m. And tomorrow Torah study begins at 9 a.m. Shabbat services follow at 10 a.m. Daily Minyan remains at 5:45 p.m. And What's New is on Thursdays at 10 a.m. It is so nice to see you all here tonight. I wish you all a very happy Shabbat Shalom. Thank you. Thanks.
We turn now to the lighting of our Shabbat candles, and I invite you to rise at this time and join as we join together in the singing of these blessings. On page 21, as the day becomes night, the velvet cloak of darkness descends, enveloping us in its warmth. We snuggle into its folds, eyes closed, breathing deeply. We feel at peace. We feel the cares and worries of the day fall away, leaving quiet, contentment, serenity. We see, even with closed eyes, 2 small pinpoints of light drawing us close, causing us to feel a warmth inside as well as out. We smile and embrace them, as we do each week, as our ancestors did, as our next generation, as our children will do each week.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
We turn now to the Kiddush, which can be found at the top of page 23. Cantor, will you lead us in the Kiddush? Our cup is most certainly overflowing with blessings.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu. Zikaron le'maaseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila le'mikra'e kodesh, zecher litziat Mitzrayim. Kivanu bacharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol hamim, v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. L'chaim l'shalom.
L'chaim. We are going to turn now to our closing hymn for Shabbat. Cantor, I see that there's both Psalm 27 and Lo Yisagoy. Can we do it together? I think that those two really go well together. The idea of both having trust in our heart, that things in the end can possibly turn out all right, and that we should have no fear.
Psalm 27, an excerpt for this Shabbat of Elul. One thing I ask of the Lord I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to see the beauty of Adonai, to visit God's holy place. God will hide me in shelter on the day of calamity, in a tent in secrecy. On a rock God will raise me. Now I lift my head with my foes all around. I will offer in God's tent with a joyous sound. I will sing and chant praise to my God. Listen, O Lord, to my voice when I call. Give grace and answer me. One thing I ask of the Lord I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to see the beauty of Adonai, visit God's holy place.
Oh, this is my fault. I did this to you, Cantor. I'm sorry.
Lo yisagoy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisagoy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisagoy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisagoy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisagoy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisagoy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama.
Echoing these words of peace, we turn to the words of Oseh Shalom. Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
And to all those at home, Shabbat Shalom.